RPX 44362, 3IB, was a large moon orbiting an enormous gas giant at the edge of known space. There was nothing special about it, unless you count a natural biosphere, or a small colony town with around 1,500 inhabitants, most of them Talar, but also some humans, and 2 Carrot families. All in all, a perfectly quiet and unremarkable place, but to me it was more. It was home. And about 60 rotations ago, I was elected mayor. Back on the human homeworld, there is a village. It is a bit larger than our little town, but it's special. If you were to ask a room full of beings anywhere in the known galaxy whether they have heard about that place, there's a chance of about 95%. At least one has, even if there are no humans in the room. So in my 3rd rotation as mayor, the Great Depression struck, and a small colony such as ours had a hard time importing all the medicine and stuff you can't possibly make yourself. But money was rare. It truly was hard times. One day, Angus, one of the human adolescents, came by my office with the weirdest question. He wanted to throw a party and invite some friends from off-world. At least that was what I understood. Now everyone who came from off-world would be paying a small fee to our community, so I, naive and unknowing as I was, said sure, use the empty fields and the communal shuttle, no problem. Food wouldn't be a problem, at least of that we had plenty, and our pilots were mostly just searching for any excuse to fly anyway. So whatever. For the most part, everything went smoothly. My, in hindsight, lucky mistake started to dawn on me when I first saw the area for the festivities. If you just want to party with 1 or 2 dozen friends, you don't need 5 square miles just for camping, probably. And for what purpose do you need a small city's worth of toilets? And all those electronics they put into the stage, sound, light, and pyrotechnics. Anyway, it was too late to stop, because when I was pondering how to break to the young human that his plans were insane and had to stop, when a ship jumped into orbit. The poor fellow who manned our spaceport shat his pants because he thought it was a Planet Cracker warship. While that fellow was running to my office, the guys on the ship were trying to contact us. Anyway, it was no warship. It was the most aggressive-looking super freighter of all times. Only humans would ever think of modifying a freighter front to resemble the opened maw of some beast. But I digress. So I got that fellow back to his post and allowed the freighter to land, and so about 2,000 human workers landed on our little colony. They worked tirelessly for the entire week. With only days to spare before the party would start, I finally asked young Angus how many guests he expected. He had a hard time meeting my eyes. When he first posted his plan to the extranet, he expected a few hundred at most. However, when he checked the next morning, 50,000 had already paid their festival tickets. And now? I asked with a shiver in my voice. Well, he said, I stopped it at 400,000. That evening, the bands arrived. Most of them were cover acts to ancient Earth acts. Yet they included various species. The following day, there was a little sound check. One of the bands played a song about the lack of a certain alcoholic beverage in the land of fairy tales. Another, about a man betraying his best friend, getting himself wronged and sent away to prison for 10 rotations, but swearing to come back to his lover. And a third sang about a rescue mission at the end of a war, so that the troops could cross a river and surrender on the other side. It was definitively music. However, I personally prefer Talar opera over Earth metal. I was still a bit scared what kind of people would like this kind of music, but the revenue would keep our colony's hospital running for at least 3 rotations. When the first guests arrived, my concerns were first confirmed when said visitors greeted us with a terrifying war cry. You remember the village on Earth I mentioned earlier? That village's name it was what they were screaming at us. Somehow the logistics teams managed to get 400,000 people down to our little world. And while most of them were already inebriated and loud, singing, dancing, and performing weird little rituals. But all that was nothing, really nothing in comparison of what was to come. For an entire week, we all could hear their music and their partying all over town. Not in a so loud you won't get anything done way, no, just loud enough to be heard. Some of the partygoers had to be hospitalized. No one was violent, but have a couple thousand inebriated individuals out on a field and someone will fall over their feet, hydrate less than is safe, or cut themselves while trying to open a meal. Finally, the last day dawned. Around an hour before noon, the last band would begin to play. Then everyone would go home and we could go back to normal. It was almost noon when I was asked to venture out to the festival grounds and receive a little thanks for the hospitality. I had no idea what awaited me when I stepped up to the stage. I stepped into the limelight as my name and position and was greeted with thunderous applause. When it died down, the band greeted me and asked me if I knew the lyrics to Nalora Ketur. Well, of course I did, and still do. It is, after all, my favorite song from my favorite opera. I had never sung in front of an audience. I wanted to say no, but alas, I wasn't fast enough. And the band started playing that familiar tune. It was the well-known tune, but it was somehow invigorated with a new, refreshing power. My cue came, and I sang. And as the refrain came, the entire crowd sang with me. When I was asked afterwards if they would be welcome again the next rotation, I couldn't help but say yes. That following rotation, I followed the festival with a more open mind. And I discovered my personal taste for metal. Don't get me wrong, I still love the opera, but those humans definitively know what they are doing.